Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." Those words carry a wisdom that can cut through much of the modern confusion about success, ambition, and fulfillment. In today's world, we are told that the way to live a meaningful life is to set big goals, chase them relentlessly, and measure our worth by how close we are to achieving them. From the moment we are children, we are encouraged to imagine a distant future where we finally make it, where we finally become the person we want to be. We are told to keep our eyes on the prize, but the more we fix our gaze on the prize, the more we drift away from the present. We begin to believe that happiness exists somewhere in the distance, in a version of life that we haven't yet reached. We say things like, "I'll be happy when I get that job. I'll be at peace once I've saved enough money." Or, "I'll feel proud when I've achieved that dream." This is exactly what Buddha warned against: the trap of living in the illusion of a better tomorrow while neglecting the life unfolding right now. When Buddha spoke of the path to liberation, he never described it as a finish line to cross. He did not tell his followers to picture enlightenment as a faraway trophy. Instead, he gave them a way of living, a set of practices to embody every day. He knew that the moment you turn the journey into a race toward a distant goal, you create tension, attachment, and suffering. You begin to tie your worth to something outside yourself, and until you get it, you will feel incomplete. Even when you do get it, the feeling of completion will not last, because the mind will quickly search for the next thing to chase. This is the endless cycle of craving. You reach one peak only to see another rising in the distance. You climb again, thinking that the next summit will finally bring lasting satisfaction. But each time, the joy fades and the hunger returns. Buddha called this cycle dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness that comes from grasping at impermanent things. The danger of this mindset is not just that it robs you of peace in the present. It also blinds you to the truth that life is always changing. Even if you manage to grab hold of the prize you've been chasing, it will not stay the same. Your circumstances will shift, your desires will evolve, and the thing you thought would complete you will lose its shine. This is the reality of impermanence, what Buddha called anicca. When we cling to fixed outcomes, we set ourselves up for disappointment, because nothing in this world is fixed. There is another way to live, and it is the way Buddha walked. Instead of aiming for a single prize, you create a way of being, a system of daily actions that reflect the life you want to live. The beauty of a system is that it frees you from the anxiety of wondering when you'll arrive. You are already living your values, already becoming the person you want to be. Right now, think about the difference between a person who says, "I want to run a marathon," and a person who says, "I run every day because running makes me feel alive." The first person might train for months, finish the race, and then stop running entirely. The second person may never even enter a marathon, but they will run for years, and their life will be richer for it. The first is chasing a goal. The second is living a system. Buddha's own life reflected this principle. He didn't achieve peace by setting a single target for himself and obsessing over it. He cultivated daily habits, meditation, mindfulness, compassion, and discipline, and these became the foundation of his being. The monks who follow his teachings today don't wake up thinking, "I must reach enlightenment today." They rise before dawn, sit in silence, breathe deeply, and walk mindfully. They clean their surroundings, eat with gratitude, and speak with care. They repeat this every day, not because they are counting down to a specific moment of achievement, but because this is the life they choose to live. And through this life, transformation happens naturally. When you live this way, you stop needing to prove yourself with external victories. You no longer say, "I will be happy when I get there." You realize there is no there. There is only here. The practice itself becomes the reward. The act of showing up each day, doing the work, living according to your values, that is the real prize. There is a story from Buddha's time about a man who came to him frustrated. He had been meditating for years, but felt no closer to enlightenment. He complained that his efforts seemed wasted. Buddha asked him, "If you plant a seed and every day dig it up to check if it has grown, will it take root?" The man admitted, "It would not." Buddha then said, "Do not worry about when the fruit will come. Tend to the soil, water the seed, give it light, and let it grow in its own time." The lesson is simple but profound. Stop fixating on the result and instead give your full attention to the process. The growth you seek is already happening, even if you can't see it yet. When you focus on systems, you give yourself permission to live in the present. If your system is to meditate every morning, you wake up and meditate. You don't waste your energy wondering whether you are close to enlightenment. If your system is to write a little every day, you sit down and write. You don't measure your worth by the number of pages you've finished. You measure it by the fact that you showed up today. The more you live this way, the more you realize that you were never chasing the prize itself. You were chasing the feeling you thought the prize would give you. And that feeling is available to you right now, in this moment, through the way you live each day. This is the truth Buddha saw so clearly. The path is not a means to the goal. The path is the goal. Buddha's teaching was never about winning. There was no scoreboard, no finish line, no prize that you could hold in your hands and say, "Now I have it all." His life was a living example that the journey itself is the point. When he spoke of liberation, he spoke of walking the path, not rushing to the end, but living each step with full awareness. In his eyes, the way you travel is far more important than the destination you imagine. In the world today, people have been conditioned to think in the opposite way. We are told to set a clear objective and focus on nothing else until it is achieved. This sounds admirable, but it quietly teaches us to ignore the present in the hope of a future reward. It makes the days in between feel like obstacles instead of the life we are actually living. Buddha understood something that modern psychology is only beginning to confirm, that the way you live each day shapes you far more than any milestone you might reach. Your character, your habits, and your peace of mind are forged in the ordinary, repeated actions of daily life. If you learn to walk with awareness and purpose, you have already found what so many people are desperately chasing. When we stop fixating on the prize and focus on the path, our entire relationship with effort changes. Instead of seeing effort as a burden we must endure to get somewhere else, it becomes a joy in itself. The runner no longer runs just to cross a finish line, but because each stride brings a sense of life and clarity. The musician no longer practices only for the applause of a performance, but because the act of playing fills them with energy. Buddha's own life was filled with such acts. He spent years walking from village to village, not with the goal of converting a certain number of followers, but simply sharing truth wherever he went. He ate mindfully, taught with compassion, and meditated deeply, not because these actions would earn him a prize, but because they were the natural expression of his understanding. When you live this way, every moment becomes part of the reward. You no longer have to wait for the big achievement to feel successful. You realize that you are already living the life you once imagined because the qualities you were seeking, peace, discipline, kindness, are present in your daily actions. This way of living also protects you from the crushing disappointment that comes when a goal slips out of reach. If you have trained your entire identity around the prize, failure can feel like the end of everything. But if your identity is built on the path, you cannot truly fail. A compassionate person remains compassionate whether the world notices or not. A mindful person continues to breathe deeply whether they are praised or ignored. It is like walking toward a mountain. If you walk only for the view at the top, you will rush and grow impatient, resenting every bend in the trail. But if you walk for the love of walking, feeling the air on your skin, hearing the rustle of leaves, smelling the earth after rain, then each step is its own reward, and reaching the summit becomes a bonus rather than the sole reason for the journey. This is not just spiritual philosophy. It is also practical truth. In any field, the people who endure and thrive are the ones who learn to love the process. Athletes who focus on their training rather than just the medal are the ones who last through years of competition. Artists who love the act of creation produce more work than those who paint or write only for recognition. Farmers who enjoy the rhythm of planting and harvesting feed their communities year after year, while those who work only for the profit quickly burn out. When we choose the path over the prize, we give ourselves the freedom to grow without the constant pressure of measuring progress. We no longer ask, "How close am I to the end?" Instead, we ask, "How well am I walking today?" This shift is liberating. It means that even if the world never hands us the trophy we imagined, we can still look back and know we lived with integrity, intention, and joy. Buddha's way reminds us that the present moment is the only place where life actually happens. The future we dream of will never arrive in the way we picture it, because when it comes, it will simply be another present moment. If we cannot be at peace here and now, we will not magically be at peace there and then. The path is not something we walk to reach the goal. The path is the goal. Every step taken with awareness, every action done with sincerity, every choice made with compassion. These are not preparations for life, they are life itself. And once we understand this, we can let go of the frantic chase for the prize and finally start living. The beauty of choosing the path over the prize is that it changes how we experience time. When your mind is locked on a goal, time becomes an enemy. Every day you have not yet reached the goal feels like a delay, like wasted space between you and where you want to be. But when you walk the path for its own sake, time becomes a companion. You are no longer racing against it, but walking alongside it, step by step, moment by moment. Buddha taught that craving creates suffering, not only because it keeps us chasing what we don't yet have, but because it blinds us to what is already here. The craving mind looks at today and sees only what is missing. The present becomes a means to an end, not a life to be lived. But the mindful mind, the one committed to the path, looks at today and sees an opportunity to live well, to breathe deeply, to speak kindly, to act with intention. There is a calm strength in this way of living. You begin to realize that while outcomes may be uncertain, your practice is always yours. No one can take away the way you choose to walk today. A storm may delay a traveler, but it cannot take away the value of each step taken before the rain dot in ancient times. There was a story told about a farmer in a small village. The farmer planted rice every season, year after year. One day, a neighbor asked him, "Don't you get tired of planting the same crop over and over? Don't you wish you could skip to the day of harvest and avoid all the work in between?" The farmer smiled and replied, "If I only loved the harvest, I would have given up long ago. But I love the planting. I love the way the soil feels in my hands, the way the shoots first appear, the sound of water in the fields. The harvest is only one day, but the planting is my whole life." This is the essence of the path, the joy in the daily work, not just the reward. Modern life makes this harder to see, because we are constantly shown the final results of other people's journeys. Social media feeds us the polished end products, the book launch, the gold medal, the dream home, without showing the years of unseen effort behind them. This creates the illusion that life is made up of milestones, when in truth, life is made up of moments. If you live only for the milestones, You miss 99% of your own life. The mind trained in Buddha's way resists this trap. It understands that milestones can be celebrated, but they are not the purpose. The purpose is to live with clarity and compassion in every step. If the step takes you closer to the summit, wonderful. If the step is on a winding path that feels like it's going in circles, still wonderful, because each step is part of the walk. There is also less fear when you live for the path. If you walk only for the prize, failure becomes a threat to your identity. If you don't reach the goal, you may feel worthless. But if you walk for the love of walking, failure loses its power. Even setbacks become part of the experience. The artist who paints because they love painting is not destroyed if a gallery rejects their work. They simply return to the canvas. The next day, the musician who plays for the joy of music is not defeated if the audience is small. They still feel alive in the act of playing. This is not to say that results do not matter at all. They can be beautiful, satisfying, and even necessary in some situations. But when results are seen as byproducts rather than the sole purpose, they no longer control us. They no longer decide whether our lives are meaningful. Buddha's way invites us to work diligently, but without attachment to the fruits of our labor. The fruits will come in their season, and when they do, we can enjoy them without fear of losing them, because our joy was never dependent on them in the first place. Walking the path also teaches patience. When you are focused on the prize, impatience becomes a constant companion. You push, rush, and strain, believing that the faster you get there, the better. But in doing so, you often miss the lessons that the journey is trying to teach you. Patience is not just about waiting. It is about trusting that the process is worth your time. The bamboo tree grows no visible shoots for years, but underground, its roots are spreading wide and deep. When it finally emerges, it grows rapidly, supported by the unseen work that came before. If you are only watching for the visible growth, you may think nothing is happening. But if you trust the path, you keep tending to the roots, knowing that they are preparing for something greater. Buddha's life itself is a testament to this patience. He spent years in study, reflection, and meditation before reaching enlightenment. Each day, he walked the path without knowing when the great realization would come. And when it did come, it was not a sudden magic trick, but the natural flowering of all the days that came before. To live this way is to find a kind of wealth that no one can take away from you. If you can love the path, you will never be poor, no matter what the world says you lack. If you can find joy in the planting, you will always be rich, even before the harvest. This is the freedom of the path over the prize, the understanding that you have already arrived because you are walking in the right direction, and that is enough. When you begin to live for the path rather than the prize, your relationship with effort itself transforms. Most people see effort as a cost, something to be endured in exchange for a reward later. But if the act itself is the reward, effort becomes a form of nourishment. The monk rising before dawn to meditate does not count the minutes until it is over. The meditation itself is the point. The craftsman shaping wood into something beautiful does not think only of selling the finished piece. The shaping, the sanding, the smoothing, all of it is part of the joy. This is why those who commit to the path often outlast those who only chase the prize. A person who diets only to reach a certain number on the scale will likely stop as beasters. Soon as the goal is reached, and old habits will return. But someone who adopts a way of eating and moving that makes them feel alive will continue for years, because the habit has become part of who they are. The path is sustainable because it is woven into your life, not something you drag yourself through for a short-term outcome. There is a quiet kind of strength in walking this way. You begin to notice things you never saw before, the details of the journey, the small victories, the beauty of ordinary days. You no longer overlook the morning sunlight streaming through your window, the sound of laughter from someone you love, the way the air feels after rain. These moments stop being background noise and become part of the treasure you collect along the path. The story is told of a wandering monk who stopped at a riverbank to drink. As he knelt, he noticed the clear reflection of the sky on the water's surface. For a moment, he forgot his thirst and simply watched the clouds drift. Another traveler saw him and said, "Aren't you going to drink? The water will not stay still forever." The monk smiled and replied, "The water will quench my thirst for a while." But this reflection quenches something deeper. This is what it means to walk the path, to be nourished not only by reaching your destination, but by the beauty found along the way. Modern life pushes us toward the opposite approach. It rewards speed and efficiency, urging us to skip the unnecessary parts of the process. But in doing so, it robs us of the very experiences that give life richness. In the rush to finish the book, we forget to enjoy writing it. In the rush to get the promotion, we forget to enjoy the work we once loved. In the rush to get to the weekend, we forget to live the week. Buddha's way is a reminder to slow down and see clearly. When you give your full attention to the step you're taking now, the step itself becomes complete. There is no need to rush to the next one, because each moment contains everything you need. The mind that walks in this way is not restless or anxious. It is steady and grounded. Choosing the path also softens the ego. The prize-focused mind is always comparing. Who is ahead? Who is behind? Who has more? Who has less? But the path-focused mind understands that everyone's journey is different and that there is no single finish line where all are meant to arrive together. The mountain you are climbing may look nothing like the one your neighbor is climbing, and that is exactly how it should be. There is no need to measure your pace against someone else's. You walk your own path, at your own speed, in your own way. In this way, the path becomes a teacher. Every step offers a lesson, if you are willing to listen. Some steps will be light and easy, teaching you gratitude. Others will be heavy and difficult, teaching you resilience. The smooth stretches remind you to enjoy the gifts of life, while the rocky stretches remind you that growth often comes through challenge. And because you are focused on walking well rather than arriving fast, each lesson has time to sink in and change you. One of the most powerful shifts that comes from living this way is the disappearance of the fear of failure. When the prize is all that matters, failure feels like death. The death of the dream, the death of your identity, the death of your worth. But when the path is the focus, failure becomes just another kind of step. You can stumble and still continue. You can take a wrong turn and still find your way back. Even detours become part of the story, adding depth and wisdom you could not have gained otherwise. This is why so many who have walked Buddha's way speak of peace, even in hardship. They are not clinging to the fragile hope that everything will go perfectly. They know it will not. But they also know that perfection was never the point. The point is to walk with awareness, with integrity, with compassion. And those are things you can do whether the sun is shining or the rain is falling. By the time you understand this deeply, you see that the prize was never outside you. The qualities you thought you would gain at the finish line, peace, joy, self-respect, fulfillment, were available to you all along in the way you chose to walk today. You realize that the real treasure is not at the end of the road, but scattered all along it, waiting for you to notice. And in that moment, something inside you relaxes. The pressure to prove yourself fades. The constant comparing quiets down. You begin to breathe more deeply, to live more slowly, to walk more steadily. You have not given up ambition. You have simply found a wiser one. Instead of chasing the fleeting thrill of victory, you are building a life where every day contains victory in the way you live it. That is the power of the path over the prize. When you truly walk the path without chasing the prize, you discover that life becomes lighter. There is no constant sense of racing against time, no endless fear of missing out, no heavy burden of not being there yet. You start to live as if you have already arrived, because in truth, you have. Each morning, you rise and walk with purpose, and that purpose is not postponed for some future reward. It is alive in the very act of walking. The more you live this way, the more you begin to see that the path is not something separate from who you are. You are the path. Every choice you make, every step you take, every breath you draw is shaping the road ahead. And because you are no longer running after something in the distance, you can finally notice the beauty under your feet and in the air around you. Buddha taught that life is a series of moments, each one a chance to wake up, to act wisely, to live with compassion. The person who understands this no longer waits for life to begin after the goal is reached. Life is already here. It is in the tea you drink in silence. It is in the kind word you offer to a stranger. It is in the discipline of returning again and again to what matters most, even when no one is watching. This way of living does not mean abandoning dreams. It means holding them lightly, allowing them to guide you without chaining your happiness to them. It means understanding that the dream is not the only destination. The journey toward it is already fulfilling. And sometimes, as you walk, you find that the dream itself changes, or that you outgrow it entirely. That is not failure. That is growth. There is a quiet confidence in knowing that even if the world never hands you the prize you imagined, your life will still be rich. Because your reward is not something that can be taken away by chance or denied by others. It is built into the way you live, the values you embody, the peace you carry within you. And in the end, when you look back, you will not measure your life by how many prizes you collected, but by how deeply you walked your path. You will remember the people you helped, the lessons you learned, the moments of beauty you cherished, the courage you found in hard times. These will be your real treasures, and you will see that they were never waiting at the end. They were with you all along. This is the truth that frees you. The prize is an illusion. The path is real. Walk it well, and you will have already won.